I've got plenty.
Yeah, that's fine.
More on some practical things. So,
Sure.
you mentioned having lots of sources from that person you contacted, which was great.
Yes, Andrew, in case you got to.
What about blog articles? You mentioned sort of having some of them and rejecting them. What was the rationale for not including them if you didn't include them?
It's basically, it felt as though a lot of blog articles, are written by journalists, and the predominant form of a blog is that sometimes it just regurgitates the same information that every other blog has. And to be honest, it's just filling out time and getting people to click on links, which is kind of a big rationale. I looked at big professional, scientific and sociologically credible blog articles to see if they had any credibility. Clearly they all had good work, because one of the major blog articles that was mentioned in my study was talking about the idea of persuasion knowledge, also known as PK. And it was a blog article, not a scientific journal, that had this, and it was a study by somewhere in the Middle East, or somewhere in Eastern Asia, where they looked at how perceptive people are to advertisements, whether it be through word of mouth, television, everything of the sort. And I don't think I would have found that information in a scientific journal. It's one of those colloquial things that I feel like should be explored more, but it doesn't have a real scientific leg to stand on. It's more of an explanation, or more of like a rationale.
So how did you decide it was a credible blog?
It's because it had actually included on the blog website, it was included in, actually included citations. It had several supplementary articles, and was actually cross-referenced by 3 other websites that I used. So it was actually going to show that even though the topic of persuasion knowledge is kind of limited with how it was presented in the knowledge of television, it still provides a basis of where we can lead assumptions from.
Okay. Some of them. So what practical skills? So you said the benefit of the EPQ would be that you've kind of become resilient and overcoming those sort of hurdles and things like that. What, in terms of a practical skills benefit that you could take onto a degree or dissertation?
It would be, well, now that I think about it, there's quite a lot that I could take. I could have taken, I can take the ability to tackle certain issues. Looking at a question doesn't, because I used to get tracked into thinking that there was one answer to one question. There is not. There are many gateways, and so long as you can explain it, and so long as you can justify, you can find a way around it. One path is not one way. It's a path, and it's a fork in the road with many different ways, and it's up to kind of my choice to see which is more suitable as well. I'm not sure if I really addressed the question quite well.
Partly, yes. What about kind of practical essay writing?
Essay writing?
Skills?
I do believe the EPQ has strengthened how well I flow when writing.
Okay.
I actually kept the rigid structure that was quite strong without. I introduced my point, I explained it, provided rationale, and whenever there was an opportunity to explain a topic that would actually fit quite supplementary, I included it in going, so we can also look at this, we can infer, we can apply this. Because even though there wasn't any actual scientific grounds to say that one thing was happening, it's important to be able to make assumptions and to draw casual conclusions from certain things as well, which is a particularly heavy skill in psychology, because I remember doing this with what I had proposed as a fear of missing out cycle, which is where people with depressive symptoms become more enveloped, and basically they check social media, they experience anxiety when engaging with social media, and they basically check their phone more. And it means that they're more interconnected. So now they have a social media addiction. And it's kind of, they keep seeing things, but they don't feel any better. So their depressive symptoms get worse. There is no scientific grounds for that, but we can use all the prior sociological theories like belongingness theory and trait and state anxiety, along with research into depression, to make this assumption, which I believe is an incredible skill that I should have taken to university, or I should have included relatively early on.
Okay. So, I suppose two more questions, I suppose. If you were to set, so you talked about kind of deadlines being a bit of an issue.
Yeah.
How would you go about that? So say you're going to start your dissertation now, you've got a year to do it. How would you plan that in terms of setting your deadlines?
Setting the
Would you
deadlines.
set a weekly schedule? Would you
I would actually
set alerts on phones? How would you do that?
So, first of all, if I had a weekly schedule, of course there's going to be things and duties that I have to take care of, because right now, at the minute, I am a carer. I have to have the ability to drop things at a hat, but I've also got to be able to reschedule. So if I set reasonable conclusions that I'm going to do research on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but something occurs on Monday, I can reschedule it for Tuesday. But I can also set time deadlines as well. Like if I want to start the research at 10 in the morning and finish at 3 in the afternoon, that's fine. I can just set a phone deadline and have my phone go off when I should start, when I should finish, and then like have time to de-stress, work out, and look at what I've looked at. Because part of actually doing the EPQ wasn't jumping from one rigid structure to the next. A lot of my thoughts didn't occur while I was on the clock, per se. It was, while I was in the shower, while I was having dinner, while all these small things, I had certain thoughts like, or certain conversations like, oh, so wait, doesn't technically this mean that? Or can I apply this to reinforce my point that I made earlier on the essay? And I thought that was quite good. But I would dedicate, as you said, I had a year. I would dedicate the first 3 months to establishing what I was going to research and how much research I would need, and look at basic foundational parts of it. This would include also actually considering primary research as well. And considering that I have, say from now, a full 365-day cycle, say I have apart maybe 2 or 3 weeks off due to celebrating holidays, birthdays, something that's similar. So we can scratch out 3 weeks. We can still have regular workable cycles to produce actual content. There will be a significant period of time, I think actually about 6 months of actually writing and getting everything sorted. And then it'd be 3 months of looking through, making changes, and seeing if there is something I could have collected and something I would have been able to understand. And then after the 3 months have passed, I believe I should have been satisfied with the project. I had a year to work on it, and I've only done the best that I could in the end.
So, going back to your actual question that you said, can you stick that back up for us?
Sure, the original question?
Yeah, right. Not your original question, the actual question you did in the end, sorry.
Yeah, this.
So, can you quickly, with a minute, just summarise your conclusion to that question?
It is incredibly hard to actually quantify if influencers are doing this. There is a reason, there is a monetary incentive to do this, because social media is a cutthroat space. As even though I explored the several topics of the drawbacks and the positives to the fear of missing out, I wanted to say that they are exploiting this, and it is having a negative drawback or a positive drawback depending on the scenario. And what ended up happening is that there is no way to reasonably source or get a confirmation that they are doing this, because no one's going to willingly to admit to exploiting something. The only way we can actually credibly do this is by reaching out to, because the way that influencers do it is by taking sponsorships or advertising things on their channel. And the way we'd have to do it is we'd have to reach out to the influencer, which could not work. We could reach out to the company that is sponsored with them. That might not work. We could look at the actual host site, like ByteDance, which is the parent company of TikTok. We could look at the companies and the hosts to see if we can get the credible knowledge. But it's hard to say. There are relevant examples, like in my essay, I have included a small photo of a statement that was meant to persuade someone, because the way that the monetization on the internet works is that once you hit a certain threshold, you can acquire to get advertising revenue.